Hello, web programming students. Welcome to week 9, internationalization and responsive web design. Welcome to internationalization. Internationalization is creating a website that can be consumed by people in different countries, speaking different languages, and bringing different cultural assumptions to the web browsing experience. So we'll start with characters and character encoding. So we've been using meta, charset, UTF-8, but what is it exactly? So charset or charset is short for character set. Characters, what I mean by characters are A through Z for English, 0 through 9, and symbols. ASCII is the first character set, composed of 128 characters, A through Z, 0 through 9, and some special characters like the $sign and the plus sign. ASCII is short for the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. There are lots of other character sets for English, which have ASCII's 128 characters plus more. The problem with ASCII is that it lacks non-English characters, so we need other sets of characters. In comes the Unicode standard, which covers almost all the characters, punctuation, and symbols in the world. So it's a better system for the modern web because there's so much out there. The Unicode standard has almost all of them. There's two different kinds of UTF, UTF-8, 8-bit, and UTF-16-bit. These are encodings of the Unicode standard. UTF is short for Unicode transformation format, but that's not really important. The important thing to know is that the HTML5 standard, the default character coding is UTF-8. So as long as you include meta, charset, UTF-8 in your code, then you'll have all of the characters that you'll need for almost every web page you'll write. So make sure you have meta, charset, UTF-8 in the head of your HTML. So let's move on from characters to actual language. So let's talk about reading direction. So many languages are read left to right. So this is the default on the web. So English, of course, but there are other right to left alphabets like Arabic and Hebrew and Syriac and Tana. And so what do we do about those? For right to left alphabets and languages, we can specify the direction in the HTML tag itself. So the main HTML tag, what we can do is put a direction attribute and then specify here in the attribute right to left. And then we can specify the language using the language attribute. And here is Arabic, AR. And so this HTML document here sets up for Arabic, and it'll read right to left. So let's move on to language, dates, and currency. So the web is global, so it's important for web designers to have a sense of how language, dates, and currencies around the world differ. Even just within English, there are plenty of differences between the American and British versions. So just within English itself, there's plenty of differences. Like these are both footballs. The word organized can be spelled two different ways. The word license can be spelled two different ways, depending on where you are. So in America, we use organized with a Z. In the UK, it's organized with an S. License here is with an S, but over there it's with a C, the second one there. And so got to watch out for that kind of stuff. The date is written differently depending on where you are in the world. So today is 17 March 2021 in much of the world. This is a date, month, year format. So today is St. Patrick's Day, 17 March. Of course, in the States, we say March 17, 2021 in month, date, year format. So 17/3/21, there aren't 17 months in the year, unless we're talking about last year. But so we would know that this was really the date and this is the month. But what happens if you have a date like November 10th, my brother's birthday? It could be written 11/10/21 or 10/11/21, which could be confusing to someone in another country. So you've got to know which country you're talking about, and you want to stick to a format that's not confusing. let's talk about currency. So besides the United States, 22 other countries use some form of a dollar as their currency. And I didn't know this, but in some countries, the official currency is a US dollar, like Ecuador, El Salvador, and there's a few others. East Timor is one of them. So you can go to Ecuador and not have to exchange your money. Of course, the euro is the official currency of 19 European countries, like Germany, France, Spain, and such. And the British pound is the oldest currency still in use. There are 180 currencies around the world, plus cryptocurrency, so Bitcoin and other coins. We won't get into that exactly here, but it's good to know that that's being used to buy things on the web. Let's move on to color and icons. So let's talk about color associations in different cultures. So red in North America and Europe can denote passion or connote emotion or anger or danger. In Central and South America, it can be passion, emotion also, usually paired with white. A lot of Central and South America are Christian countries or Christian peoples, and so the religious practices combine red and white. In Asian countries, red is not so much the color of anger and danger, but prosperity. So this is a red envelope. So in the Chinese culture, you'll put money in this and use this as a gift. Yellow in Africa can denote or connote wealth and status. In Middle East and Latin America countries, yellow is used for mourning. In Japan, bravery, prosperity. In Thailand, luck. In China, it's linked with pornography. In North America and Europe, we're used to yellow being like sunshine and good weather. In some areas of France and Germany, yellow is used for jealousy and envy. Blue in Eastern Europe and West and Central Asia, blue is used as a color to ward off evil spirits. In Western cultures, we think of blue as like for sadness or tranquility or relaxation. In Eastern cultures, it's slightly different. Blue is used for strength and long life in addition to relaxation. And in Central and South America, blue is a color of mourning. Green, speaking of green, North America, Europe, talk about green as good luck or envy, or green for green light. So it's like progress. Asia, green is used for fertility and prosperity. In Islamic cultures, green is the symbol or color of youth. And in China, green is the color of infidelity. So depending on where you are, green has a different meaning. Purple, near universally the symbol for wealth. But in Latin and South America, purple is used for death. So watch out for that. Orange in North America and Europe, often associated with autumn or the fall season. In the Netherlands, orange is the royal color. In Central and South America, orange is associated with religious practices and earth and sun. And in Asian countries, happiness, courage, good fortune, and the color orange in India is sacred. So important to know this if you're dealing with Indian audiences. Black in North America and Europe, we associate black with death and mourning, or sometimes formality, so like a tuxedo. For boys in China, it said that black is a color of youth and vigor, and for girls in Japan, a color of femininity and mystery. So even within cultures and within Asia, you have differences. India, black is seen as evil. Same in the Middle East, with also the death and mourning and mystery meanings. And in Africa, it's slightly different. Black is seen as a masculine color or the color of maturity and not necessarily the death color. White is universally associated with purity. And so in Africa, white is associated with good luck and prosperity in some countries. And in some places in Europe, Eastern Europe and Asia, white is associated with death. So talk about icons and symbols. So the most obvious one with a lot of differences, I think, is in different cultures and having different meanings. The swastika is 6,000 years old, but in the West, we associate it with Nazi Germany. But in China and India, Native America, it's a very old symbol. And so it represents different things. So something to definitely watch out for if you have to deal with these multiple cultures. But even with our own culture, icon differences are considerable and could be potentially confusing. So in this example, this is the share button. So in Apple iOS 7, it looked like this. In iOS 6, it looked like this. The Google ecosystem had a completely different look for it. And the Microsoft system, I don't know what's going on here. Here's a gift. This is supposedly share. Okay, then. So all of these icons together represent shares. So you have a lot of differences even with our own culture. In America, the Maloika, the devil horns, rock and roll and such, metal. But in Italy and Brazil, Colombia, Portugal, and Spain, this is said to be a way to tell someone that their wife is cheating on them. So just be careful if you use the Maloika in certain countries. Now let's talk about responsive web design and your code demo and your project for the rest of the semester. Just to review, media queries are CSS instructions that dictate what style gets used based on the device dimensions. So the size of your browser will determine what gets shown on the screen. Media queries are written at the bottom of the style sheets often, and they override style instructions that are above them if the conditions of the query are met. So you have a set of instructions, and then media queries handle different situations. So in this situation, as long as the screen is up to 320 pixels, you'll have this style. Otherwise, you'll have the style above it. It's called a media query because the browser will query or ask the device, aka the media, what size it is at the moment, and then either carry out the instructions here or ignore them. So if it's not meeting all these conditions, then you won't see any of this style. So that was a review. Now here's some new information. So the meta viewport tag, we need this piece of code in the head of each of our pages. So meta name viewport content equals width device width initial scale 1. So we'll do this in the code demo, but you'll need this piece in the head of your HTML. Otherwise, your page isn't responsive and it won't respond to any media queries. So if you change the size of your screen, it won't affect the way your page looks other than squeezing things in your browser. So got to have this meta tag to do a responsive web page. Desktop first responsive web design, which is what I'll show you in the code demo this week, is a max width media query. We'll start with desktop size web pages, and then we'll introduce code for smaller screens. So we'll use some code we already used weeks ago, just add a little bit of code to make it responsive, and then I'll show you what it could look like with some responsiveness to it. But we're going to do our project 2 with a mobile first design. So why should we start with mobile? If most people are using the web on their phones primarily, then we should start with that experience. In project 2, our favorite movie or album sites, we will approach the design as mobile first. So the templates you'll use to create your wireframes, that'll be on phones and tablets first. Our media queries for mobile first are written differently than for desktop first. We'll do that next week. We'll use min width for mobile first. That's next week. We'll start with the smallest size and then move up in size. So right now we're starting at the biggest size and moving down. So our code demo, remember this guy, we'll use this guy to demonstrate some desktop first responsive web design. So let's go to Atom. First, let's go to, so right now, here's our web page with the dude drinking the soda. And if we squeeze this in, nothing really happens. It doesn't really respond to any of our changing the size of the screen, other than it's going to squeeze it, move it a little bit and then not squeeze it or anything when we get to a certain size like this. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go to Atom. So here is my HTML for that same page with the boy and then drinking the soda and everything. The first thing we need to do is add our meta viewport tag. So meta name viewport content equals, then we have content, oops, content equals with, oops, with equals device dash width, comma, initial dash scale equals 1. You may see it as 1.0. Let's call it 1.0. And then we have our right arrow. And that is our meta viewport tag. So if we save this, nothing will change on our browser yet. So the next thing we need to do is add some media queries to our CSS. So since this is a desktop responsive web design conversion to responsive web design, all of this style can stay here. We're just going to scroll down to the bottom and start new. So I'll just hit return so I can get some space here. And the way we write a media query for desktop responsive web design, at media, all screens. Again, this could be print, this could be just digital screens. We'll just call them all, and max width. So the number you pick depends on the devices you're trying to target. Let's just do 600 for example's sake here. So 600 pixels. So this is the max width of a 600 pixel screen in our curly brackets. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to go from this green color, and then if we have a maximum width of 600 pixels, then our background color will be red. So what we have, I'll save this and then I'll show you what we have start out. Normal circumstances, desktop screen background color is going to be this green color. But if we have a screen that's smaller or within 600 pixels, then we'll have a background color of red. And so I will save this, 3, 2, 1, refresh. Nothing happens, of course, because we're still greater than 600 pixels width of our screen. But if I were to shrink this down, if it goes past 600, then if I did this correctly, then the background will turn from green to red. 3, 2, 1, refresh, and then go. Well, can't really see it here. So how can we look and see if our designs change colors? We could scroll down, can't really see it here. More, well, you kind of see it there, but a better way to look at it, as you can see, is at least in Chrome, if you go to these 3 dots here and go to more tools and developer tools, or if you right click and inspect, either way, then you'll get your developer tools here. And so at the top of the screen here, you can toggle device toolbar. So if I click this, then now you can pick different devices and see what your design will look like on the iPhone X or Pixel 2 XL. And so I can change the size of my browser smaller than I would do with just changing the size of the browser like this. So here's a special way to change the size of my browser. So here, normal circumstances, greater than 600 pixels, my background is green. Squeeze in here, squeeze in, and notice my width is changing, it's getting smaller. And if I go past 600, my background color turns red. And you can see it over here that the conditions being met, the media is no more than 600 pixels. And so my background color is red. And you can see the color that got overridden is strike through text here. So my responsive web design code addition worked. So if I go below 600, above 600, it'll change. That's well and good, but we can keep going and add another one and go even further. So if I go back to Atom, back down here, do a little more down here like this. Media, all, and max width of 320 pixels, about the size of a phone in portrait size. Body, background color, we do black. And so what I'm saying is that if the screen is any less than 320 or less, then the background color will be black. Between 320 and 600, it'll be red. And then greater than 600, then it'll be that green color. So let's go back, 3, 2, 1, refresh. So it's still within 600, but bigger than 320. So if I shrink this down past 320, it should turn black. So I'll keep going, change. Past 320, turn black. And you can see it here, even that got crossed out. This is still crossed out. And so as I move my slider here, the color of my background changes. And so we can use this principle to rearrange things and change things depending on the size of our screen. Before we end, I want to show you some templates that I have here in the Canvas assignment for you for making your wireframes. So you'll need to have at least a desktop view, an iPad view, rotated, of course, one in portrait and one in landscape. And then your iPhone or whatever phone in portrait and in landscape. So I've included some templates in the assignment, so you can use whichever ones you need for your own designs, but you need at least 5, one for a portrait and landscape phone, one for a portrait and landscape tablet, and a desktop view.